Here's what Donald Trump was doing over the weekend. Again, I wonder if he'll be asked about this. Pushing false claims, threatening anyone who does not support him. In a post on Saturday, the former president warned he would try to imprison anyone who engages in, quote, unscrupulous behavior during this year's race.
And
what does he mean by that?
Of course, people that aren't supporting him.
Right.
Right. Political operatives, lawyers, donors. Yeah.
Yesterday, he continued to amplify false information about the 2020 election by referencing an outlandish claim from the far right that 20% of Pennsylvania's mail-in ballots were fraudulent.
Well, of course, those mail-in ballots haven't even started to be sent in yet. And these are the type of lies Chris Christie said he started telling in early 2020 because he thought he was going to lose. And he said that the more he realized he was going to lose in the spring of 2020, the more he started amplifying those lies. And he's doing it now.
If I had an opportunity to ask him questions or moderate anything, I would start probably with whether the 2020 election was stolen, but then head straight to this, because this is the heart of the matter between these two candidates, not his made-up policies on child care that make no sense. On Friday, Trump spoke to the Fraternal Order of Police and encouraged officers to watch for voter fraud because voters would be afraid of them.
You want to run a country that is based on fair and free voting, you're in serious trouble if you get caught trying to find out what are the real results of an election. It's an amazing thing. Do you ever see that? They go after the people that are looking at the crime, and they do terrible things to them. But the people that committed the voter fraud and everything, they can do whatever they want to do. It's so crazy. And I hope you, as the greatest people, just as great as there is anybody in our country, I hope you watch for voter fraud. So it starts early, you know, it starts in a week. But I hope you can watch, and you're all over the place. Watch for the voter fraud, because we win. Without voter fraud, we win so easily. Hopefully we're going to win anyway, but we want to keep it down. You can keep it down just by watching, because believe it or not, they're afraid of that badge. They're afraid of you people. They're afraid of that more than anything else. They're afraid. So I hope you can watch.
Well, they can watch all they want. You know, Donald Trump's own staff members watched in 2020. And do you know what they said? The person who was in charge of actually watching the election that Donald Trump put in charge, Chris Krebs, said it was the cleanest, fairest election on record. Of course, Donald Trump, see, and this is the thing. People go, oh, I don't know what to believe because Donald Trump says this, but then I turned on this cable news channel that's lying for 24 hours a day on the right, and they tell me that what he's saying is the truth. Mm-hmm. Really?
Or they don't talk about it.
You know what the truth is, and you deliberately choose lies. You know where the light is, and you deliberately choose the darkness. You do it deliberately because you know, and I know, 63 federal judges said there was no evidence of any fraudulent behavior, any widespread voter fraud in 2020. The United States Supreme Court, time and again, refused to listen to these because there was nothing there. The one time they did in a Pennsylvania case, the most conservative justices said, you know what, even if we responded to this case, it wouldn't change the outcome of the election. You had Republican officials in Michigan, Republican officials in Pennsylvania, Republican officials in Georgia, Republican officials in Arizona repeatedly say that their elections were fair, and yet the lies continue. Now, am I saying this because I think Donald Trump's ever going to change his tactics? No, he knows he's lying. He admitted last week he was lying. He said he lost by a smidge or whatever he said. No, I'm saying this for the people that actually continue to spread his lies and know differently. And John Heilemann, you know, the pace that has picked up so much over the past couple of weeks about Donald Trump saying, oh, they're going to steal the election, they're going to steal the election. It suggests the man doesn't have a whole lot of confidence that he's actually going to win this election.
Right, and I think the pace. It is eerie, Joe. The way I think if you went back and looked at the timeline in 2020, you would see the same thing. I mean, Trump is obviously we remark about it all the time that there's never been a race that he's run where he has not tried to frame a loss as the result of a stolen election, as a result of a fraudulent election, as a result of cheating. He did that in 2016. He did it in 2020. He did it this time. The difference between 2016 and 2020 was that in 2016, it was a relatively late phenomenon when he started to really lean in on that question. In 2020, he started to lay the groundwork a lot earlier, and he started laying it very early again this time around. And the pace right now is picking up in the way that it did in the immediately after Labor Day, heading into the fall of 2020. And of course, we saw how that turned out in the period after the election up to January 20th. And I think that there is a widespread sense of concern on the part of across parties, but on the part of everybody who cares about trying to make sure that the transition of power after this election is peaceful. There's an enormous amount of concern, especially in the wake of January 6th last time around, with that precedent in the books that Trump is driving headlong into that again, if anything, amping it up even more so. And of course, this race has been turning against him of late, and that makes it all the more unnerving.
And let's be very clear that about half of Americans, little less than half Americans, want to support a man who started riots and is doing exactly what John Hyman said. And they know he's doing it. And they're completely fine with it.
Not only is he sowing doubt in the election, the next step is violence to get people to protect him. See what you see. Read what you read, but actually go to somewhere where you can get real information.